welcome. Welcome to the stream. Hello. You'll be pleased to hear that my voice is back to normal. I've recovered from whatever cold I had. I've still got a bit of a cough, and I'm still not 100% in terms of energy, but I can stream again, which is good. That's nice, and I feel like I have the energy to do things again, which is lovely. So I'm back at my desk today. I'm back working and back doing things, and most importantly, back streaming for all of you delightful people. So Mysterious, hello, good to have you here. Good to have you here for the stream as always. Wonderful to have you. Hello if you're watching live. Hello if you're watching on catch up. Excuse me. Jill Sinead is here as well. Thank you so much for coming along. Good to have you. I'm really sad I didn't get to stream this last week. I was very, very excited to talk about this, and I was looking forward to it. Like, it's a very big deal for me personally. Beckgleim, hello, good to have you here. Thank you so much for coming. This is something that's been a bit of a dream of mine since I started making stuff. Like, since before I was making audio drama, I kind of wanted to have something on shortcuts, and it's been very weird talking to people about it, because I think if you listen to a lot of podcasts, you might not be aware of shortcuts. I think it sort of sits in the very sort of niche area of like narrative audio, narrative radio, which I think does have a big audience. It's just an entirely separate audience from normal for me. So it's been speaking to a lot of people in audio drama or colleagues of mine who work in podcasting and going, oh, shortcuts, and a lot of them are going, I vaguely know what that is. Whereas for me, it's like it's one of the podcasts I listen to all the time. It's one of the few podcasts I listen to every week. And so to have something on it is incredible, and I'm honored to have been a part of it. And I'm really excited to talk about it. And I'm excited to talk about the thing I made, because I'm really excited. I'm really proud of the thing I made. So yeah. So we're going to be talking about this today. So if you don't know what Shortcuts is, Shortcuts is a program on BBC Radio, BBC Radio 4. And it's kind of the BBC's corner for sort of experimental audio storytelling. It's a mix of kind of archival recordings, it's a mix of commissioned pieces, and it's also sort of found sound. Sometimes it's soundscapes, sometimes it's music, sometimes it's something in between there. And then they also commission stuff as well. Sound art as well. They do a lot of sound art stuff, which is grand. So you never quite know what you're going to be getting when you listen to Shortcuts, and that's the really exciting bit. That's the really exciting thing about it, and it's one of the reasons I love it so much. I've been listening to Shortcuts since 2014, I think. Like, I can't remember how I came across it, but I think genuinely I found it when it was broadcast on the radio, when it was broadcast on Radio 4, because when I was in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, I had a big problem with insomnia. And so I'd just be listening to the radio late at night. It would help me kind of calm me down, get me into sleep mode, and just wind me down, I guess, and stop me from being slightly as anxious all the time. And one night, this program called Shortcuts came on, and I must have really enjoyed it, and then have just been following it on various devices and on various different things ever since. Like back when I used to download my podcasts and load them onto my iPod, which I'm now at the stage where it's come back around, and I miss having that. I want like a device that only plays podcasts, and that's it. I don't want one device that can do everything. I like devices that can do one thing, and that's absolutely me getting old, and I'm okay with this. Anyway, I've been talking too much. So this is the project file for my shortcuts piece. It's called All My Friends Are Turning Into Stars. It combines all the things that I love, namely, and all the things that that I've done for that I've been doing since university. Because not only is this about radio, it's also about music, and it's got music in it. So there's mix. I did the usual tin can audio thing. I'm going to do all of it. It features conversations about space. I interviewed an astrologer for this piece, which was terrifying. I had to actually speak to somebody who knows stuff professionally about space. That's terrifying to me. So I had to do that, and I got to talk about space. I got to make metaphors about space, which if you've been here a lot, you'll know that's something I like doing very much. And then also I got to use my English degree, and there's a couple of quotes from classic literature in there. So this it's the everything piece. I started using my iPod again last summer, and honestly can't recommend it enough. I am tempted. This is the thing, right? Like, I have been looking at, like, what I had an MP3 player, and I loved that MP3 player. I'm very much considering getting a new one. Also, nothing beats having it already on your device without needing to stream it, honestly. And no, I understand that. And to be honest, it is something I kind of do anyway, right? Like, if I'm going on a long trip, I will download like a handful of podcasts onto my phone. And there's like a collection of podcasts that are always downloaded on there, and they don't get taken off. Yeah, I should just get an iPod, shouldn't I? Yeah, I might get an iPod. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna, well, it's my birthday next month, so if anyone's looking to get me something, get me an iPod, or an MP3 player. I'm not wedded to Apple. In fact, if anything, I'm very much the opposite of whatever that is. Okay, so I'm gonna play you this piece. I'm going to play it all the way through. It's about 9 minutes. And then we're going to talk a little bit about it. So the actual piece is over here. The finished piece is over here. Quite a small piece in the grand scheme of things. Like, it's much smaller than the sort of Camlin project files that we've been looking at, and the music files and things. It's quite a nice tight little project file. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to go through. I have a first draft here. And then I also have this original scratch track that I made over here that I think might be interesting to talk about as well. This was made in a very strange way, for me at least. This was written and put together in a very strange way. So, I'm interested to talk about that. But in the meantime, let's have a listen to this piece. This is All My Friends Are Turning Into Stars. It was broadcast on BBC Radio 4 last week, and I'm really proud of it. I hope you enjoy it.
A man whose desire is to be something separate from himself, to be a member of Parliament, or a successful grocer, or a prominent solicitor, or a judge, invariably succeeds in being what he wants to be. That is his punishment. Those who want a mask have to wear it.
I'm interested in how galaxies form and evolve across, cosmic time.
When you look up at the sky on a clear night, what do you see? There's the moon and the stars.
So, we know the universe is 13, 14 billion years old.
The moon looks like the biggest thing in the sky, doesn't it? Those tiny-looking stars are larger than the moon, but they are much farther away.
And when stars form, that's how galaxies grow and evolve.
Millions and billions of millions and billions of millions and billions of millions and billions.
I was having coffee with some old friends. We'd spent the morning bouldering, scurrying up climbing walls and falling down a lot. We sat with aching arms and legs and backs. Not quite as spry as we used to be. It was one of the first times that I'd gone outside looking like some kind of rough approximation of my new gender, trying to relearn how to wear clothes again. Not that I'd ever really figured it out in the first place. I felt large and awkward, like a teenager again, except 31 and surrounded by other 31-year-olds who seemed to have their lives together. We talked, we caught up, and soon the topic of house prices and mortgages came up, of investments and dog ownership. Worlds that were far away from me, undiscovered, unknown. We are at the age where we talk about these things. We are at the age when we talk about settling down, about finding the forever home. We are at the age where we relive and retell stories, rather than live new ones. We are at the age where we become a fixed point in the sky.
Millions and trillions of miles away.
Heterotemporality, or the equally wonderful word chrononormativity, is the idea that there is a correct progression to life, a correct way to be an adult. It's a list of unwritten instructions: get a job, get a real job, get married, get a house, get a car, have children, have hobbies, be a productive member of society, and raise the next generation of productive members of society. We are instructed and moulded into its shapes and patterns by the world around us.
Why, I'm in favor of marriage. In fact, I spend a good deal of my time helping people to get ready for marriage. What's that? I call it a marriage development board. It represents the psychological distance between a husband and a wife from the time they are born until they die.
My partner and I got married before I came out as non-binary. When I did come out, we both noticed that our families stopped asking us if we were planning on having children. My new identity, a new queerness that could not be hidden or adapted, didn't feature on the marriage development board. It wasn't on the list of instructions. There was a new distance now. We had accidentally become exempt from the usual ebb and flow of adulthood. The mask had cracked.
Why, yes, I think you've made a good start towards getting ready for marriage.
All my friends are turning into stars, and I am still here, watching them. I measure the redshift as they drift away from me, and I am still here, blue.
Okay. What is a star? So I think it's actually one of those questions you've asked different astronomers, you'll get different answers. I'm Dr. Matthew Temple. I'm a research fellow at Universidad de Capitales in Chile. The way a star forms is through a process of gravity. So the star has to, start with a gas cloud and then collapse down until the density at the center of the star is such to ignite nuclear fusion reactions. And these often have some, dust and so on in them as well. So you get these beautiful images from things like the Hubble Space Telescope and James Webb Space Telescope. And then as it's collapsing down, you start seeing these small pinpricks of light, which is where you got the protostar forming, often enshrouded by dust. But then as it ignites and starts to radiate out, then it blows that dust away, and you see the star unveiled. You can think of it almost like a life cycle. A star is born, and then it lives, and then it dies in a supernova, and then that actually sends out lots of material from the dying star into the surrounding medium, and then that triggers a new phase of star formation as well. So you end up with this really sort of interesting and complex sort of life cycle within the galaxy and within a star forming region.
Get a job, get a real job, get married, get a house, get a car, have children, have hobbies, be a productive member of society, and raise the next generation of productive members of society.
Millions and trillions of miles away.
Then came the most exquisite moments of her whole life.
passing a stone urn with flowers in it. Sally stopped, picked a flower, kissed her on the lips. The whole world might have turned upside down. The others disappeared. There she was, alone with Sally, when old Joseph and Peter faced them. Stargazing, said Peter. It was like running one's face against a granite wall in the darkness. It was shocking. It was horrible. She made old Joseph tell her the names of the stars, which he liked doing very seriously. She stood there. She listened. She heard the names of the stars.
Queer time, queer space, exists in opposition to chrononormativity. It is, as Jack Halberstam writes, an outcome of strange temporalities, imaginative life schedules, and eccentric economic practices, with the potential to open up new life narratives and alternative relations to time and space. It is a failure to follow instructions correctly, by choice or by circumstance, but finding beauty and meaning in the failure. It is Jupiter, not quite a star, but something else, with its own mini solar system of moons orbiting it. It is Neptune, hiding in plain sight. It is Uranus, spinning the wrong way, sideways. It is Pluto, defying and confusing conventional classification. We may not be a fixed point in the sky. We may still be at the mercy of other cosmic forces pulling us in different directions. We do not bend reality around us as the stars do. But we still affect each other's orbits. We still warp time and space in our own ways. So yeah, that's all my friends turning into stars. So if you were here when I did a series called Covers, where I was writing things based on I was writing pieces based on book covers. I wrote like a little monologue that was called "All My Friends Are Turning Into Stars," and I think I wrote it and then never made it because I was like, "This is a bigger idea," and it's an idea that I've been developing into like an audio drama series, very very quietly in the background. And then when Shortcuts came around, I sort of thought, well, I can maybe, they did an open call out, and I sort of thought, right, well, I can maybe pitch something here, like pitch a non-fiction version of it. I think it can work as a non-fiction version because it started out as as a monologue, and they said yes, which was marvelous. I knew I recognized some of it. Yeah, there's one bit where I've specifically taken a bit of the monologue and stuck it down on there. Also, hello, Endwich Cat Possum. Good to have you here. I think Ollie's here as well. I think I saw Ollie say hello at some point. Hi, Ollie. How you doing? Yeah. It's I finally made it. Yeah, it's good to see you as always. And I'm glad you liked the piece. Like I kind of saw what you were saying, in the chat, and I get like. And it lines up with what the piece is talking about. I think like the initial idea was, when I pitched it, it was a much bigger idea. It was much more kind of talking about how you're kind of pushed out of this idea of chrononormativity by being marginalized in many different ways. But then I was told I only had 9 minutes, and I sort of had to condense down the idea a little bit. And yeah, like I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, suddenly all your friends have no time for D&D. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like yeah, I can relate to that, though I don't that was that was in the script, but I was told I wasn't allowed to put it in there. No, that's not true. I love the sampling. Yep, I had a lot of fun with the sampling. We'll talk a lot about the sampling. I do also miss the iPod scroll. Yes, I do. Yeah, I know we're done talking about iPods, but I do miss. I was thinking about this. I do actually still think I still have an iPod here, like an iPod Nano. Maybe I'll see if I can find it. Make my life just a little tiny bit better. Does that mean your friends are constantly on fire? No, not quite. Not quite. I got my Nano 5 somewhere. Yeah, I think I can't remember because I had a sort of small stubby one, and then I sold that for a thin, cool one. And I did have an iPod Touch at one point as well, but I think that's gone. Anyway, we're not here to talk about iPods. So to kind of go through how this sort of worked. Being married, having kids, and a job is like constantly being on fire. I don't know how true that is, but I guess it's more putting out fires all the time. I guess maybe that's the feeling. So in that piece, so a couple of things to the astronomer you heard was Dr. Matthew Temple, who is currently working as an astronomer in Chile, and very kindly agreed to talk to me very briefly. Basically, agreed to just give me some very basic facts about stars, which I hope wasn't too insulting. I talked to him a little bit about his research, which is really cool. He talks a lot about cosmic time with regards to black holes specifically, and a lot of it I don't understand, but I was like, this is really cool. You also heard the voice of Lou Sutcliffe reading an Oscar Wilde quote at the very beginning. Lou was one of the first people that put me onto the idea of heterotemporality, and I think by putting me on to the idea of heterotemporality very much set me on the path to make this, because I think Lou gave it a name, and by giving it a name, I sort of thought, right, well, if it's got a name, then somebody must have written about it, and then being able to find things to read and things to quote and learn from and form an understanding of what I was feeling that way. So I was very grateful to Lou for that. So I thought it would be good to put him in the in this piece. You also heard the voice of Alessa Catterall, who is our delightful violin player for Camlin. She very kindly agreed to read a Virginia Woolf quote for me from Mrs. Dalloway, which is a fantastic book that kind of also deals with this in a different way. It deals with these kinds of themes, and I kind of thought it would be good to kind of have these two quotes to kind of make the point that these are not new conversations, that these are not new ideas. Like this idea that there is a correct way to live your life has always been kind of stifling, and there have always been people who are either trying to exist outside of that or have no choice but to exist outside of that. And yeah, that's kind of where those two quotes came from. Let's start by talking about these samples, right? Let's talk about the samples that we used, right? So the first one you hear is from Apollo 11, I think. So this kind of... Oh, sorry, Apollo... Yeah, no, it is Apollo 11.
Verify the EMS set up the way you want it. Yeah, the moon is there, boy, in all its splendor.
So here's the thing. Because of the way NASA operates, so NASA is like a public domain organization. So if you go into Internet Archive, they have all the audio from the Apollo missions. All of them. Apollo 8, Apollo 9, Apollo 10, 11, all of them. Just there. They're not filed very well, but they're all there. Like, and yeah, so if you want to make something spacey, just get some of this stuff. because it's amazing and it's great. And this little quote here where they talk about, oh, there's the moon. Like I just thought it was really cool. This little bit here.
Yeah, the moon is there, boy, in all its splendor.
Yeah, I've always loved that as a little quote, as just a little aside from stuff. But yeah, most of the stuff around the Apollo missions is public domain, so you can use it in stuff like this, which is amazing. And then we get our delightful quote from Lou.
A man whose desire is to be something separate from himself.
So, standard thing, Lou recorded our audio. I ran it through a radio, ran it through my radio, and then put it in the thing. So man, we kind of got that texture, because I'm all about texture. And then we had this.
I'm interested in how galaxies.
That's Matthew Temple.
Time.
When you look up at the sky on a clear night,
Right, yes.
what do you see? There's the moon and the stars.
See.
So that is from. It's called The Sun's Family. Did I get the... Oh no, I only downloaded the audio. Hang on, let me see if I can find it very quickly. Archive.org. So in... see if I can just get this real quick. So I'm just going to close down a load of tabs because there's some spoilery stuff in there that you can't see. So this is the Prelinger Archives. So the Prelinger Archives is an archive.org. It is it's a collection of sort of ephemera from sort of video ephemeral films. So it's like education film, public information films, educational films, that sort of thing. It's so most of it's all stock footage and things, but most of it's public domain, and that's where I got a lot of this is where I got the videos from. So I think it's called this. Oh no! The Sun's Family. Come on, let's see if we can find it. There it is. So this is it's from 1950. It's public information film from 1950. Let's put this up. I think all of them come from the 50s. Young American films are such a good... Right. Very, very long introduction. But like, because I was trying to find a...
When you look up at the sky on a clear night, what do you see? There's the moon and the stars. The moon looks like the biggest thing in the sky, doesn't it? Those tiny-looking stars are larger than the moon, but they are much farther away.
Yeah, I just want to make that clear. That wasn't an editing mistake on my part. That was that was the source material. That wasn't me. Okay, just want to make that clear. I can edit stuff. I know what I'm doing. I would have caught that, but it's part of the tape.
Millions and trillions of miles away. You know how large an airplane looks when you see it on the ground.
Yeah, so mostly what it does is this is kind of talking about planets.
Planets are always moving about the star that we call the sun. This is a model of the sun and the planets.
So basically what I was trying to do is I was trying to see if there was a video that talked about how stars are formed, right? That was my kind of aim with looking through the Prelinger Archives. That's what I was looking for. And this was the kind of first thing I came across. So I was like, well, I can't. They don't talk about the sun. It's mostly about the planets. And I'm like, that's not particularly useful for me. So instead, I thought, well, the start of this is quite useful. I might use that. So I downloaded that and used that. The other one I used was, again, another 1950s information from the Coronet film called "Are You Ready for Marriage?" This film is wild. Actual educational film that was made. So there's a lot of
University. That's a tough road, Larry.
I cannot wait to answer
What are you
no
here
to
for
every
money?
point of it.
Well,
Yeah, there was a lot of kind of going, this is making me cross. But so I want to.
Sue's folks were going to pay something to put her in.
you can get married.
So the story of this, right, is basically you have these two young kiddos, who want to get married, but their parents are like, no, that's not a good idea. They realize they don't have any money, they don't have any jobs, they don't have any prospects, so they go see a marriage counselor. This guy, this Bond villain-esque guy, who's going to advise them on how to get married.
Maybe you could convince your folks that you should get married.
But how, Larry?
Oh,
How?
it gets worse. It only gets worse is the thing.
Say, I'll bet we could get some advice from the marriage counselor over at the church.
The marriage counselor.
His name is Hall.
The marriage counselor over at the church.
Told me about him. He teaches a course in marriage and family living at the college.
Teaches a course at the college on how to be married.
Do you think he could help me with my folks?
Do you remember when churches had in-house marriage advisors?
Well, it's worth a try, isn't it?
Slightly. Yeah.
My folks don't understand the way I feel. So that's the story, Mr. Hall. Do you think you can help us get married?
Why, I'm in favor of marriage.
This guy.
In fact, I spend a good deal of my time helping people to get ready for marriage. Now, let's see. You've known each other for...
3 months, 1 week, 2 days, and 17 hours.
And you're 18, Sue? And 19, Larry? Have either of you ever been in love before?
Well, but
So-
not like this.
So there's a couple of things that I didn't include that I wanted to, right? So there's...
Larry, you felt for Cupid. For Cupid. Cupid.
Hang on.
Might well ask yourself some questions before you get too serious about marriage.
Well, what do you mean?
What do you
What
mean?
sort of questions?
Well, questions for Cupid. You might say he should ask
Questions for Cupid.
them before he fires those arrows.
Here we
call
go.
this Cupid's checklist. First, do you have similar backgrounds?
Similar backgrounds.
Similar bases for your ideals and standards. Second, are you real friends? Comrades, pals, through thick and thin. And third, do you both understand marriage?
Okay, so here's the thing. So I thought that was amazing, but the bit I kind of wanted to include.
You don't know the answers. I'll tell you what I mean.
This bit right here. Romeo and Juliet score 1 on that list. The second one is solid. I mean, I'd argue the third one is also solid, that you understand marriage, right? I think similar backgrounds in the context of the 1950s is setting off a lot of alarms. But,
What's that?
So this is the bit. Like, I was just like, I have to include this because it's very funny.
Stand marriage, but backgrounds. How do they affect getting married?
Well, come over here a minute. Perhaps I can show you what I mean.
What's that?
I call it a marriage development board.
Marriage Development Board.
It represents the psychological...
Look at this! Look at this thing! Look at this! There are models. There's a y-axis.
distance between a husband and a wife from the time they are born until they die.
The psychological distance between a husband and wife. Okay, first of all, from the moment they are born until they die.
But what does it all mean?
Well,
Nothing
let's set it
good.
up for you and Sue. When you are born, you inherit a great many differences from your parents. That's part of your background.
That makes sense, all right.
Does
Now,
it?
as you grow up, you each develop separate and unique personalities. Your mental growth, your emotional outlook.
This guy has made this. This guy's built this thing in like...
Your standards and ideals. Larry, your distinctly masculine outlook on life and...
Sorry, that didn't... Oh, man, I didn't catch that line when I watched it. Your distinctly masculine outlook on life.
Each develops separate and unique personalities. Your mental growth. Your emotional outlook.
I don't know why I'm surprised. That's...
Your standards and ideals.
Butch POV.
Larry, your distinctly masculine outlook on life.
Jesus God, man. Oh. Your distinctly masculine outlook on life. This poor guy.
Sue, your feminine way of looking at things.
Sorry, I don't know why I thought Sue would be spared. Her feminine way of looking at things. God damn.
Your capacities to love and be loved. In these and many other ways, you each acquire a background.
Okay, right. So enough of doing a Mystery Science Theater 3000 thing here. Like, also, there's a line at the end. So basically, Mr. Hall solves everything, right, through this psychotic marriage development board. The
engagement period gives you two the opportunity to work things out together. If you both still want it.
I guess you might say we're engaged to be engaged.
Oh, yeah, so they're
Mr.
not
Hall,
engaged yet.
We both want to thank you. And say, now do you think we have anything more than...
Boing!
Why, yes, I think you've made a good start towards getting ready for marriage.
Shake the hand. Shake the hand. Well done. Well done. So, you can see why I wanted to use this for my purposes. And she became addicted to Valium. And in the 70s, they both transitioned. Yeah. So that's kind of it, right? So, I thought that would be interesting to use. I thought that would be an interesting thing to add. Because what I wanted from this sort of radio bit here is I was trying to have this idea of a radio floating through space. And then you hear all these little bits and pieces and things. It's where I took the bit from the Son's Family bit, you know, when you look up at the sky at night, what do you see? That thing where they talk about where they're much further away, millions and trillions of miles away. And I love that, having that sort of millions and trillions idea, like have that repeating as the radio floats away. No one is immune to Wolf 359. Exactly that, right? Like it's a strong image. So this sort of sound here.
Millions and trillions of millions and trillions of millions and trillions of millions.
And then I ran that through a delay over here. And then just have that fade out. And then make that a motif.
Millions and trillions of miles away.
Throughout the piece. Because I wanted to emphasize this idea of distance. Throughout the piece, like the sort of growing distance between sort of heteronormativity and chrononormativity rather, and queer time, and sort of the growing the sort of way that they move apart from each other, move away from each other on the psychological development board, a marriage development board. And kind of recognizing that distance. So that's kind of where having those two little bits of archive footage just made things, it kind of clicked into place quite quickly, and those were the two things that I sourced, and they were kind of the first things that I was using. Because the thing is, like, writing a piece like this is really interesting, because I was very much like, I want to use interview tape. I want to interview an astronomer and use that to kind of do the explaining part. And but the problem is that, you know, that presents a problem when it comes to script writing, right? Because you don't know what your interviewee is going to say. And I managed to get the interview with Matthew like a week before I was due to send over a cut, right? So it meant that I was kind of having to build the piece in a way where it was like, okay, if this interview doesn't come through, how are we going to do this? Like, I was very much at the stage where I was like, right, am I, is there a way where I'm just going to have to like talk about it myself, like just do the explainer myself without having an astronomer. And so if you look at the first draft, which is over here, all of Matthew's interview is pretty much this one spot towards the end of the piece. And that was very much just like, this is the bit where the astronomer conversation is going to go. Sent that away. I got some notes from Ollie, who's in the chat. I got some notes from Ella Watts. I got a note from a couple of other people, and they very much said, "Can you split this up and have the sort of astronomer come in a bit earlier?" And that meant that what I ended up doing was chopping it up and adding it into the beginning. So it meant that this bit here became a lot more of a prelude, which I thought was fantastic, and I really loved that. It reminds me so much how the ultra Christian right want girls to marry at like 15 to 18 to a guy because yeah, we get that over here as well. It's not fun, but it's a minority. It's very much more of a minority. I'd like to believe so anyway. One more piece of archive that I didn't use. So if I go over here, so I was very much like, my big worry was like, I'm not gonna. I was like, let's see if I can find like a lecture, right? So like the Royal Institute here in the UK does regular lectures about space and astronomy, and they're all up on YouTube. Harvard do free talks that are public domain, as well as lots of public domain lecture series out there. And I was like, well, can I maybe use one of those? Can I use one of those and see if maybe that's useful? I ended up getting some audio from an old PC program from 1998 called the Doling Kindersley Eyewitness Encyclopedia of Space and the Universe. Now, this was a program I had on my computer when I was 10, and they had like little videos. And basically I managed to track one down. I had to like get it working on my computer using like DOSBox and things. DK Eyewitness, yeah, I freaking love those. I love those programs so much. The space one in particular is great. Like it just hang on, let me see if I can I love those videos. They're on YouTube. Well, it wasn't so much that the videos are on YouTube so much as like you get playthroughs of them on on YouTube. Eyewitness Space. Yeah, you get like a walkthrough video. So and also like, so you get the
New moon. At the start of its orbit, the moon is between the sun and Earth, and the side that faces us, the near side.
So there's a video about stars. There's a I used to get the space video out of the library all the time. That's really cool. I like how this has become nostalgic for everyone. This is nice. But yeah, so I took the audio from a bit about stars. And the problem was this was too long and I couldn't find any information about the copyright and the usage rights. So I ended up not using this. But I wanted to because it sounds amazing.
Stars are born inside huge spinning clouds of gas and dust. When a region in the center of a cloud gradually becomes denser than the surrounding material because of the effects of gravity, the temperature of this dense region increases and the heated cloud starts to glow. The dense matter slowly breaks up into hundreds of clumps of gas and dust called protostars. Each protostar spins and continues to contract and heat up. Eventually, the core of each protostar is dense enough and hot enough, about 10 million degrees centigrade, for nuclear reactions to begin. And the protostar becomes a fully fledged star.
So the way I got that, by the way, was I basically plugged my computer into this, recorded it out into this, and then changed the plugs and then recorded it back into the computer. So rather than having to download like a 10-hour video or whatever, I meant I could do it that way. So I didn't use this, sadly, as much as I wanted to, but like because it was a commission for the BBC, I was very limited on like I had to actually, abide by copyright law, which is something I don't normally particularly pay attention to, even though I probably should. But I'm trying to think what else is interesting to talk about. Like I do think sometimes that I should probably structure these streams before I get into them, right? Just to try and make them a bit more streamlined. Let's talk about the space sounds actually, just while we're here. The Amber gets arrested for violating copyright. Not yet. There are absolutely things that I have done things that I've made where I've absolutely hidden copyrighted material in them, including in Camlin now as well. But nobody's been able to find them yet. That's not a challenge. Please don't go looking. So for the space sound, this is a sound in my library called a dynamic through draft. Do I have an effect on it? Oh yeah, I've got an EQ on it. So if I turn the EQ off. So this is a cheat. If you ever want to make like a space ambience, right? Just get yourself a recording of some wind. And then just stick a low-pass filter on it. Instant space. You can use that for like spaceships. I mean, I think that's more or less what I did for Tin Can. Like, this is the thing. If like on a personal level, it was nice to be making this sort of stuff again, because this is the stuff that I made when I was starting out. It's the kind of thing I made when I was making Tin Can, where it was like, all right, what, I think for Tin Can I had the sound of a washing machine that I recorded. I recorded my washing machine and then put a low pass filter on it, and then just get like a consistent sort of fan sound, and then stick. 'Cause I think for Tin Can. Let's see if we can have a look. Is it fan? Is it in? No, it'll be in machines. Yeah. So I took this, which is a recording of like a sort of outside building fan that was outside where I was working at the time, and just smacked an EQ on it. There's also a kitchen fan as well from inside the inside the kitchen where I was working. Yeah, and then just slapped a low pass filter on there. So that's why I wanted to get noises from the MRI, because it was like old school video game. MRI machines are terrifying. I wish I could record the noises from them, but the problem is that the magnets are so terrifying that they'll just break any recording. I did actually get a load of... I recently bought a pack of appliances. Like Humble Bundle are doing a really big sound giveaway at the moment, which you should absolutely get on. I actually, I'm gonna do an official sort of like look this up. So Humble Bundle are doing a thing called right now called whatever, like go away, Melodic Mayhem, a comprehensive audio and music bundle, right? So it's mostly geared towards video games. So you get like if you do game development, they have Footsteps plugins, which I imagine are very handy for various different engines. But they also have royalty-free music packs, which obviously I don't really have a lot of use for, but they're there. But you also get Foley packs, right? You get like there's all sorts. There's impacts, there's fire, there's horror and suspense packs. There's medieval stuff. There's footsteps and appliances. These alone are worth the price of paying for them. Movement sounds. There's vehicles. There's steampunk stuff, along with loads of music and sound effects as well. So like, and you know, you're talking like, well, like nearly like $1.50 worth of value, and you get all of it for like £20 or $20. Like absolutely get on this. If you just go to Humble Bundle, type in Melodic Mayhem, you'll get them. And I spent a fun afternoon cataloging all these sounds, and they're great. They're fantastic. Like absolutely go. And if you are interested in, if you're needing sound design or you're wanting to start building a sound design library, this is a great place to start. I'm actually going to stick it in the chat for people, so it's all there. It's on for the next week or so, so you're all grand. Right. So let's get back to this. So that's where the space
invariably succeeds in being what he wants to be. That is.
I'm interested in how galaxies form and evolve across evolves.
Millions and trillions of millions and trillions of millions.
So for our radio floating through space sound, we have
evolves.
Millions and trillions of millions and trillions.
So everything's going through a space reverb, which is, I believe it's just called the Abyss. Our delightful original bisexual reverb going through a preset called the Abyss, which is very, very big and deep and dark.
Succeeds in being what he wants to be. That is his punishment. Those who want a mask have to wear it.
It's quite cold, but it's still quite fun. And then also you've got millions and trillions over here. Which, that's just a simple delay. I thought there was more to it. I was having coffee with some old... And then I have a granulizer for something. I'm just trying to remember what it was.
This is his punishment.
All right, there's a granulizer as well. Only the most bisexual Abyss. Yeah, so we've got a Portal Hill just adding an extra layer of texture to the radio stuff.
And yeah, when stars form, that's how galaxies grow.
So it is this sort of very quiet ambient wall of noise.
Thing in the sky, doesn't it? Those tiny-looking stars are larger than the moon, but they are much farther away.
And yeah, when stars form, that's how galaxies grow and evolve.
Millions and trillions of millions and trillions of millions.
It just fades out. So this cafe sound, this is a recording that I made. I think in somewhere in Glasgow. I can't quite remember where. Aching arms and legs. But there's a bit approximation of my new gender. Their lives together. Soon the topic, I felt large and awkward, like a teenager again. Yeah, so there's a bit that I didn't catch where somebody just goes, "Oh yes, yes." Turn that up. The problem is I didn't take it out, but the problem is it lands like in between bits of dialogue. Like a teenager again. Oh yes, yes. 30. I didn't catch that until I was listening to it on the radio. It was horrible. Like a teenager again. Oh yes, yes. So, 31 and surrounded by other 31-year-olds who seem to have... It's fun. Like it's an imperfect recording. You know, like you there's times that I'd gone outside. You know, there's that's me hitting the recorder. Like times that I'd gone outside, hitting the table, and then you can hear me putting a cup down. Summation of my new gender, trying to arms and legs and right next to the recorder. So it's an imperfect recording, but I kind of like it. You know, it's only produced, only available here. So we get our the forever home. We are at the age where we relive and retell stories. Was there something behind rather than live new ones? We are at the age where we become a fixed point in the sky. Talk about Kai's idea, unless you did it. You did, and I missed it. Kai's idea? Was there something? Have I forgotten something? Messy audio. Yeah. Okay. So, this is something that I was talking about with Kai, Will, and Pritchard. They were doing a PhD. They're not doing a PhD. They were doing a dissertation. Sorry, my brain is just full of mashed potato. Clearly, about authenticity in audio, and something we talked about was this idea that with most other mediums, if something is imperfect, that's seen as a sign of authenticity, right? So if something's filmed on a phone or something like that, it's seen as adds an authenticity to the video. Whereas in audio, and in particular in audio drama, there's been this push towards sounding clean, like sounding really professional and sounding very clean, and kind of stripping away all the humanity out of a sound. Like getting the dynamic microphones that sound like podcasts, or using isotope to get rid of imperfections and sounds and reverbs and things in reflections in the audio, and how that's quite strange, and how imperfect recreations of so you can't hear me. You're meowing back to your cat. Poppy was here, but she seems to have left very sadly. But yeah, and then that moved into different ideas that Kai put me onto, this idea of lining up queerness and glitch music in particular. And I've talked about this on stream already about that, actually. There's a particular essay that I talked about in a previous one of the Camlin streams. I talked about it. But this idea that you can tie queerness to glitch culture and glitch music, because glitch music is all about imperfect recreations of things. Imperfect recreations in audio, and finding beauty in those imperfections and in the failure of the recreation, because it creates something new and something different. And then the essay that Kai put me onto was like, you can also say this about queerness. And there's a brief mention of it towards the end, where I talk about how queer time, queer space exists in opposition to. It is, as Jack talking, but finding beauty. It is a failure to follow instructions correctly, by choice or by circumstance, but finding beauty and meaning in the failure. That idea, basically. And then I kind of extrapolated that idea when I was writing this to kind of make it about space as well. This idea that, you could say that Jupiter is a failed star, right? It didn't quite reach the size that it needed to be to turn into a star, but it's still Jupiter, right? It's still the biggest thing in the solar. It's still the biggest planet in the solar system. It has its own system of moons, and not to me. But then also, you've got Neptune, which was discovered because mathematicians were like, that's where it should be, and it had just been hiding the whole time. You've got Uranus, which spins sideways rather than the normal way, and then you've got Pluto, and people can't make their minds up whether Pluto is a planet or an oversized asteroid or whatever like that. Like, kind of realizing that it's just like, just because these things aren't, don't quite meet the criteria of what we've decided planets and stars are, like, that doesn't mean that they're not worth something, that they're not amazing and wonderful in their own ways. And that's kind of what the piece is about. And I sort of found that, oddly enough, it was a Tom Cardy video that got the ending for me. There's a Tom Cardy video about Pluto, right? And it talks about Pluto being hot shit, right? Like it's a beautiful. I'm not gonna play it because just go and watch it because it's amazing. But it's about how Pluto's not a planet, but Pluto doesn't need to be a planet because it's still amazing. And then it also kind of goes through all the other planets in the solar system, being like, and about all of their insecurities. And when I was writing, like I remember, like I thought of this song, and then that's where this came from. So thank you, Tom Cardy. I know you're watching. Anyway, so that's where that bit came from. That's where the ending came from. It came from Tom Cardy. So, something that I tried to do with the music for this piece, and something that like came out of came from a very strange place, was I thought, what if I used a vocoder in this piece? Because it came from, I have Creeks by Bon Iver. I have it on a playlist that I listen to a lot when I'm writing. And I think I was listening to it when I was writing this, and I was kind of thinking about putting it together, and I was like, oh, I really like songs that do this with vocoders, where they kind of, you have one voice, but you use the vocoder to kind of harmonize and create a thing. And I thought, oh, I love that. Can I do it for this? And gave it a go. Initially, it was just meant for this little bit here when I was writing the music. So, all my friends are turning into stars, and I am still here, watching them. I measure the redshift as they drift away from me, and I am still here, blue. So that little bit is from the original monologue that I wrote probably this time last year, because I really liked this idea of, like, it's something I wish I had more time to talk about in the piece, this idea of redshift and blue shift. So I'm probably going to explain this badly, so please don't take this as like scientific knowledge. I'm probably misinterpreting it for creative reasons. But so the universe is expanding in all directions at all times, and the way that we can tell is that things moving away at that distance and at the speed that it's doing, the light that reaches us from those places is colored differently, just because it's sort of come a very long way. So we all kind of know what the Doppler effect is with audio, which, an ambulance goes past, and the pitch of the pitch of the siren changes as it goes past you, and that's because basically audio waves are being squished together as they go past you. The same thing happens with light. So if you're traveling at the speed of light, I'm probably going to get this the wrong way around. If you're traveling at the speed of light and people are looking at you, or you're traveling very, very fast, you will look red because you're going that fast. So light is bending. The way the light is bending around you means you're going to look bright red, whereas everyone else to you is going to look blue because it's being bent the other way. So the Doppler effect also happens with light. I'm probably not getting the specific things there, but it's close to that. But anyway, we can tell the way that we managed to figure out that the universe was moving away from us was that the light from distant stars that was reaching us, when we measured it with a particular kind of telescope, all the light that was reaching us was kind of skewed more towards red on the spectrum of light, which means that they're moving away from us at speed. So that's that's called redshift, and it's measurable. So you can measure the speed at which objects are moving away from us. And again, probably getting the facts there are probably not all correct, but the basic concept is that stars moving away from us or shine a bit redder because they're moving away from us because of the way the Doppler effect affects light. And that's what and then the opposite of that is blue. And so that's where this idea of I measure the redshift as they drift away from me and I am still here blue. So that was where that idea came from. And I think it's a good, if anything, it's just a good line. Like, sometimes you write something and you're like, that's a good line. I want to keep that. I wanted to keep that in. And I'm sad I didn't get a chance to kind of expand on the idea of redshift. Makamira, hello. I just joined at the point of redshifting. Yes, and also the point where we're talking about the vocoder as well. I was just talking about how for this piece I added a vocoder, and for this particular line where I talk about the redshift. So that's like watching all the cis-het friends and family getting married, having kids, and getting careers and like houses. Yes, absolutely. That's it. This idea that as people start to settle down, they start to become fixed point. They talk about this idea of becoming a fixed point in the sky, and that's becoming a star, and then that's them sort of drifting away, and because they're stars, they're drifting away, and then that's where the redshift comes from. So you've got it bang on, Endwich Cat Blossom. There is also this idea. There is something I know very vaguely, but I think it's called like a cosmic horizon. So it's like there will be a point where stars start disappearing because they reach a point, basically the way gravity works. There's a sort of cosmic horizon where once stars go over that, we can't see them anymore. So it's like there will be a point where stars start. Queer time versus cis-het time. Yes, that is the topic for today. That is the piece that I made for Radio 4's Shortcuts is all about heterotemporality or chrononormativity, two fantastic words. And what I did in this piece was I basically drew a line between the idea of chrononormativity and people turning into stars and becoming like a fixed point in the sky. Like, stars, they're all this sort of potential of gas and dust and all this stuff. And then eventually it all condenses together and they become a star. And then that's a sort of equilibrium. That's a sort of equilibrium, and that's a sort of stable point for millions and billions of years. Might as well be forever. It's more orbiting. They get further away, but someday those kids will grow up and leave. The marriage might end, and they retire and come back. It's a bit. It's not a perfect metaphor, but then that was something I was definitely struggling with. Maybe not Larpig with Bob's knee. Chrononormativity. Yes, I learned some very wonderful words for this. But anyway, yes. So for this line, I brought in a vocoder because I thought it might be fun to run the narration through a vocoder to kind of add a bit of extra interest to parts of the piece. So this is the vocoder on its own.
All my friends, and the stars. I am still here, watching them. Measure the redshift as they drift away from me. I am still here.
So that's being run through the fantastic Chip Crusher plugin. That is a chip crusher, but also it has a vocoder built in. It has lots of like speech things. It has like a speak and spell simulator on here as well. Has lots of voice encoding, which is marvelous. And like you can also run MIDI into it as well, so it means that you can just use it as a vocoder plugin, which I really love. I used it a lot for chill beats to build profitable dungeons too. Forgot the name of my own album there. I used the vocoder for that because I was like, oh, I think I can use this. But yeah, so I kind of this is the first bit of music that existed, right, for this piece.
All my friends, and the stars. I am still here, watching.
Just a very simple chord progression descending down, which I think I used in the tower at one point, maybe, because the music is in the key of F, which, as everyone knows, is the best key. There is actually no, wait. There is a reason why I used that key. It's actually in D minor. So Johannes Kepler, who discovered the planetary laws of motion in the, I'm going to say the 13th, 14th century. Definitely getting that wrong. Discovered the motions of the planets, wrote what is considered one of the first ever science fiction stories, and was obsessed with trying to prove that the universe was perfect. The metal nose guy, not quite. He worked with the metal nose guy. You're thinking of Tycho Brahe, who was an astronomer, whereas I think Kepler was a mathematician, but used Brahe, who's the metal nose guy, used his measurements and equations to come up with planetary laws of motion. You were very much there. Tycho Brahe, I believe, was Dutch. Probably getting that wrong. I just want to point it out. I'm not a professional physicist or historian. I'm just a nerd that sort of knows things. I was saying to my producer when I was making this piece at one point that it was weird speaking to an astronomer because it felt like I was taking a test. So it felt like I was taking a test, and Danish. I beg your pardon. Is this what I mean? Yeah, nerd that sort of knows things. That's all I am. That's all I have is enthusiasm. Okay, I have enthusiasm. Like the only thing, like even synthesizers and stuff. Like I know, I if you tell me how they work, I won't be able to tell you. You know, if you've been here when I've had to explain how something works, you'll know that I'm kind of just winging it a little bit. Like I think I vaguely know how it works. You know more about soundscaping than me. I mean, I appreciate you saying that, but I'm very much just like I sort of know how it works. I know how to make it do things. That's not necessarily the same as knowing how it works. But yeah. So Johannes Kepler. That's what I was talking about. I got a bit lost. So Johannes Kepler at one point assigned a musical note value to each of the planets, the heavenly bodies as they were called then. I think there were only 6 of them at that point. I can't remember. But when you put these musical pitches together, it was this idea of I don't quite think it was the music of the spheres. I think there might have been something else. But it turned out to be a D minor pentatonic. If you put it to modern pitches, it's a D minor pentatonic scale. So I have an excuse to put everything in the key of F, because according to Johannes Kepler, that's the key that the solar system is in. That's my excuse from now on. Nearly everything I do is in F or in B flat, which is very close. But now I have an excuse for it, which is great, you know? Yeah. Blame Kepler. Exactly. Don't blame me. I'm just a little guy. You can't blame me. I'm just doing what Kepler told me to do. You're going to argue with Johannes Kepler, the inventor of the inventor of the planetary laws of motion? You're going to go up against Johannes Kepler? Have you seen his friend, the guy with the metal nose, who drinks very heavily all the time and fights people? It's okay. Okay, it's gonna take a second. May have Johannes Kepler, inventor of space? Who am I to go against the teachings of Johannes Kepler, inventor of space? Okay, so up new life narratives. Shush. So I brought the vocoder back towards the end, because I thought that would be really interesting. I thought it would be a nice way to kind of create a bit of variation, because the music is very simple, right? The music is quite simple. It's some Sega Mega Drive bleps run through some. Yeah, it's some delightful Sega Mega Drive bleps that I use on more or less everything. It was my little kind of nod to Tin Can, because the Tin Can used the same thing. Like Is this plugged in? Oh, it is plugged in. It's just not working for whatever reason. Oh, there we go. So, so you've got these Sega Mega Drive bips that like I've been using for a very long time, right? Like, I'm trying to see if I can, over here. Like that's Tin Can, right? Like it's the same instrument, just because they're very plain beeps, and that's run through a delay and then run through our amazing bisexual reverb. And then in the case of this, in this piece, this is the music. If we go back to the beginning. Which is that I think if you've listened to Tin Can, like it's a very similar vibe, right? It's the very simple kind of piano and synthesizer kind of sound from that series, very inspired by like Ben Prunty kind of thing, and it was nice to kind of come back to this style. But yeah, it's just the main loop of this music is you've got the kind of beeps, the blips doing their thing. Doing their thing, and then you've got the Wurlitzer and a piano, kind of doubling up that little ostinato, but then also adding some chord ostinatos underneath it. It's quite dry, like I've not run them through a reverb. This idea of just like a coded message through space kind of thing, which is something I love doing. I love that kind of style. It's very quiet, very ambient. And then we bring in, what are we bringing in here? Right, yeah. So of course, it's a piece of music that I've made. So of course, I'm gonna use the Moog Grandmother at some point, and of course, we used it for lovely, warm synth bass. Very, very, very lovely synth bass. Deep synthy bass. Again, that's not being run through anything. Just beautiful. Love it very much. And then also on top of that, we have we've got the Mellotron. Did I use a Mellotron? Oh, I did as well. Oh, that's clever. I should do that more often. Okay, so this is Sorry, let me turn this up. So, what this is, this is a Mellotron, which I've used a couple of times. So it's sort of like a very sample-based early synthesizer from like the 60s. And that's, so it's like, I believe it's like flute and strings, right? So it's, but what I've done is for this, I've run it through, so it can be quite a harsh sounding synthesizer, but I've run it through some really big reverb here, some bisexual reverb over here, and I've just made them turn the mix all the way up, so it's kind of drowning out the original signal. And as a result of that, you get this lovely, it's quite large, it's quite big, it's quite wide. It's quite low in the mix as well, but if you add it with everything else, quite subtle. And then add the vocoder in at the end. But so when the music comes back in, it's just everything all at once. Just bringing in the full thing. And then as we bring in, it is a failure to follow instructions correctly. By choice. Bringing this line here is a failure to follow instructions correctly. It is a failure to follow instructions correctly, by choice or by circumstance. What I did there is we bring the vocoder back in, and we just have the vocoder doubling up the chords, the chord progression. I think it's actually doubling up the piano part. It's just the piano part copied over, and then just let that kind of. It is a failure to follow instructions. Just to add this texture. And then there's a delay added to it as well. So you're spitting truth here about the whole queer time thing. Thank you. Like it's like I always get really worried when I talk about I always get really worried when I make stuff specifically about queerness, because I think there's always that worry that it's like you're sort of doing it wrong, right? Like it's certainly something that I've always had a bit of a chip on my shoulder about, and so it's nice to hear people say that they really like it and they connect with it, because that's good. It means that it means that I've done it right, which is nice, and it's nice to know that I can talk about these things. But yeah, so like if it basically it doesn't, the vocoder is quite quiet in the mix. It was louder, but then everybody that I sent it to was like, the vocoder is cool, but it's way too loud. So I thought, right, well I'll just keep it in there, but just turn it down so it's not overpowering, the words, the important bit that people are actually listening to. So it means you get like quite a nice little bit of but finding beauty and meaning in the failure. And then you've got the sort of space ambience. It is Jupiter. Not quite a star, but something else, with its own mini solar system of moons orbiting it. It is Neptune, hiding in plain sight. It is Uranus, spinning the wrong way, sideways. It is Pluto, defying and confusing conventional classification. Like, it just adds an extra, like, little kind of, just a little bit of variation, I think, which I really, really like. There is also an extra, if I just turn the vocoder off and just have all these bits, there is an extra Wurlitzer part here, a little extra melody part that comes in, which I believe is, just a little counter melody to the ostinato here. And that's on a slow pan, so it's slowly kind of going between the two, between left and right. So it's kind of, it's very Minecraft. Each other's orbits. And then also at the end here, there's a track here called Wibbly Whirly, and basically this track happened by accident. So you just listen to it. So the way this happened was I was playing around. I was playing around with my kind of keyboard here, which has some effects on it. Has like a chorus, has a delay effect on it as well. And I don't know if you probably won't be able to hear this through the microphone. No, you can't hear that. Never mind. But basically, actually, no, I can demonstrate it on the box. So let's see if I can quickly set this up. So if I put so I've now put a delay on my voice. So the thing with a delay is if you adjust the time while you're talking, it does some like slightly odd effect while you're changing the time, because it creates a sort of weird effect with the tempos. And basically, I was playing around with. I've turned that off now. And basically, when I was adjusting the effects while I was playing the piece, basically, and accidentally made the Wurlitzer part go a bit wibbly. And I kind of liked the way it sounded. And I think I can't remember, there was a specific line where it happened. And I thought, oh, that's thematic. So I sort of thought, well, let's record a little bit at the end, quite low in the mix, where you have the sort of wibbly sound. We may still be at the mercy of other cosmic forces pulling us in different directions. We do not bend reality around us as the stars do. But we still affect each other's orbits. We still warp time and space in our own ways. It's like quite quiet in the mix, but again, just adds like a little bit of extra texture to it. It also just sounds very like Radiophonic Workshop. Could not do something for Radio 4 and try and do something a bit Delia Derbyshire. Yeah, and that's kind of so like I really liked the idea of using a vocoder with radio narration. I think it's something I definitely want to experiment with in the future. There is a vocoder built into this that it's a bit difficult to control unless you've got like a keyboard plugged into it. So I need to figure that out. I need to get like a MIDI controller that I can plug into the back of this and then use it. Because the idea is that I do want to turn this into a Radio Workshop piece as well. I do want to be able to perform this live. So the hope is to try and get this on the box at some point. And yeah, like I'm still figuring out how to use the effects on this, but like once I do, like I do like the idea of being able to like use a vocoder on narration live. That's a very tempting prospect. What is that, and should I get one? So this is a Roland SP404 Mark II. This, because I'm a nerd, mine's got a Legend of Zelda sticker on it. I've been using this for like podcast live shows. So I've done a couple of streams which are now on YouTube where I kind of perform radio pieces and audio drama stories entirely on this. And I'm at the stage now where I'm like writing pieces on this and using this as a creative tool. Like, because everything I do right now is made up on the computer. And so having something like this is really interesting to sort of experiment with, making stuff entirely on hardware. Should you get one? It depends on what you're wanting to do. Like I got mine because I wanted to use it for podcast live shows, because normally you use like a computer program like QLab and you run it through a laptop. I can't stand it. Like it's very rigid. I find QLab very rigid in that you have to plug in all the sound, you have to sort of line up, you have to program everything, and then you sort of, on the night of the actual show, you have to sort of like press the space bar to move to the next sound and things, and it's very difficult to make changes quickly on the fly. Whereas with this, it's like a soundboard basically. You have a sound assigned to a different pad, and and then you can sort of make them interact with each other in interesting ways, and you can be a bit more spontaneous with it, which is really interesting. I've not used it for then you press then you press the spacebar twice by accident and suddenly everything's fixed. That's what I mean. Like it's QLab, like it feels very delicate to use QLab, at least in my experience. I've not used it for like a live show that wasn't just me. Like we're currently seeing if it's possible to put on like a Camlin live show at some point, and looking into the logistics and costings of that, and trying to figure out, well, is it possible to run an entire live show through that box? Like, because everything I've been making on there is like maybe 10 to 15 minutes, whereas obviously a live show would be like half an hour to an hour, and it's like, can you run everything? I don't think so, because I'm not doing live audio. Yeah, I think if you're not using live audio, if you're not doing live audio, I don't think there's necessarily a place for it. The only success I've had with it is making memes for TikTok, and that was entirely by accident. It works quite nicely for theatre where everything's planned out. Yeah, like the thing, because you can also use it to control lighting as well. So QLab is really useful, and I think it's a good program, but it's just not. It's just really not for me, I guess. Like I used it for the Tower live show for part 3, and I was just like, this feels very. This doesn't feel very good. It feels very easy for something to go wrong. Less so if you want some fluidity, and it's also only on Mac. So yeah. We ran the Middle Below live show off QLab as well, but Martin was doing that, and Martin was much more skilled at it than I was. Right. Okay. Is there anything else interesting worth talking about? Oh, yeah, we did the... Yeah, so here's an interesting thing.
I got married before I came out as non-binary.
There's a bit in the piece where a radio explodes. And it's right at the bit where... when we went through the public information film that I used for this, it got to, basically as soon as I heard the ending of the "Are You Ready for Marriage" clip, I kind of loved the idea of the music getting louder and then the sort of radio exploding, because I thought that was quite fun. And again, it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor for what we're talking about here, where it's like, queerness blows up power structures. And yeah, so I kind of wanted to try and have that. Martin the Trickster IQ dude. No, this is a different Martin. This is Martin Rowbottom, who did the additional sound design and recording for Middle Below. Now lives in Australia, I think. I've not spoken to him in a very long time, but he seems to be doing well.
The mask had cracked.
Why, yes, I think you've made a good start towards getting ready for marriage.
All my friends.
So, here's the thing. I really like making things explode in audio drama, because it's quite fun. And I'm finding that I enjoy the idea of radios in particular exploding, because they make weird little noises. So here's a fun thing. In the broadcast of Shortcuts that this piece is on, the explosion isn't there. They took out the explosion for the radio broadcast, and they didn't tell me why. They didn't tell me why. They didn't ask me about it, but I suspect it's because it was being broadcast on the radio. And I like, radio is quite tightly regulated in the UK, so I imagine that there's some rule about not having explosions on the radio. I suspect. Like, I don't think it's necessarily anything malicious. I just think that, like, maybe there's a rule against it, or there's something that didn't clear. But yeah, in the original piece, it explodes.
All my friends.
Now we get to play the game of what did I do to do that? So there's a piece here called Breaking the Radio. Was that me? Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Explosions might trigger people. Yeah, exactly. Like, because we didn't warn about it at the beginning of the piece or at the beginning of the episode, I suspect it was probably that. It was an accommodation. Excuse me. Okay. So I think I can talk about this now. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yeah. So this is from Camlin. So if you've listened to Camlin episode 3, you'll know that at some point a radio gets destroyed by a character, and basically I just reused the sound, and then I added a little extra firework sound underneath, so you get a nice
Friends.
So I believe it's a match lighting. It's a match lighting up and some like fizzy crackles, and then obviously just like a sort of small explosion. Completely forgot I took that from Camlin. Okay. Right. Where are we at? We're at 9:45. Like in a restaurant, we prep ingredients that can be used in different dishes. A lot of sound design is like that. Like you could say there's a lot of overlap there. So I'm going to talk. I'm going to talk a little bit about something very quickly, very briefly, and then I think I'm going to play the piece again, just to kind of show you everything kind of together, and also for anyone that wasn't here at the beginning of the stream, they can hear it again. But I want to talk a little bit about this up here. So I mentioned earlier on that I made this in quite a weird way. It was written in a slightly weird way, and it does actually relate. It does actually relate to this, which is quite fun. This was the first time I used this as a writing tool. Everything that I'd been kind of using this for up until this piece in particular, I'd been kind of writing it on the computer and writing it and then transferring it onto here. Whereas this was the first time where I was like, right, I kind of have the little clips. I have clips that I want to use. I've got a vague idea for a script. Let's do a scratch. Let's load the samples all onto here. Run the script with the chops up with the clips on it, and then build it around that. So so I recorded a scratch track, which I've never done before. And yeah, and this is kind of what it sounded like.
Hi, so this is kind of weird. So this is the scratch track.
I was going to send this to other people, by the way. This isn't just how I talk to myself.
Hi, so this is kind of weird.
Actually, that's a lie. This is exactly how I talk to myself.
Hi, so this is kind of weird. So this is the scratch track for All My Friends Are Turning Into Stars, as a little demo, basically. So if you're listening to this, thank you very much for agreeing to help me do this.
You're welcome.
Here we go. It's going to start now. So it's going to start with some radio static. And then there's going to be sort of radio tuning sounds, and then you're going to hear a voice say, "A man whose desire is to be something separate from himself."
So this is
to be a member of parliament.
So this is me reading out the Oscar Wilde quote. Currently, at that point, didn't have
tedious, invariably succeeds in being.
Didn't have Lou attached. Didn't have anybody attached to that
point. That is his punishment. Those who want a mask have to wear it. And then there's going to be some more radio static and some more radio tuning, and then it's going to tune into this.
When you look up at the sky on a clear night, what do you see? There's the moon and the
And that was
sky.
me, like,
The moon looks like
hitting
the
a pad
biggest
on
thing in
the
sky,
sampler
doesn't it?
while recording.
Tiny-looking stars are larger than the moon, but they are much farther away.
And then
Millions and
basically as
trillions
that's
of
going
miles
on,
away.
the radio is going to get further and further away, and it's going to get more and more echoey. And basically, it's the idea is that it's a radio floating through space. Is kind of what the sound design is going to try and do.
You have no idea
and
how
then
this is cool, and I can use this idea. I'm glad.
Millions and trillions of miles away.
And there's going to be some cafe ambience, which I don't have yet. Hopefully, I'll record that, and then
I don't normally make stuff like this, so this was a new.
I was having coffee with some old friends.
This was a new method for me.
We'd spent the morning bouldering, scurrying up, climbing walls, and falling down a lot. We sat with aching arms and legs, not quite as spry as we used to be.
I think the initial idea was I was going to use this as the vocal.
It was one of the first times I'd gone outside looking like some kind of rough approximation of my new gender, trying to relearn how to wear clothes again. Not that I'd ever really figured it out in the first place.
I think I did.
I felt large and awkward. Like a teenager. Again. We talked, we caught up, and soon the topic of house prices and mortgages came up, of investments.
It's
and
like a
dog
3D
ownership.
outline for a story. Yeah, I mean, like,
These were worlds that were unknown to
I
me.
think if you're
We are at
used
the
if you
age
just
where we
make
talk
audio
about
drama, like this can be quite like
we are at the age
it can be quite rigid.
when
You know,
we
you write the
talk
thing, you
about
record the thing, and then you do the
settling
sound design. Whereas something like
about
this is a bit more of
finding
a
the forever home.
it's about a much more
We are at the age where we
meshed
relive
up
and
process.
retell stories rather than make new ones. We are at the age where we become a fixed point in the sky. And then again, you're going to hear the radio in space.
Millions and trillions of miles away.
Heterotemporality, or the equally wonderful word chrononormativity, is the idea that there is a correct progression to life, a correct way to be a grown-up. A list of unwritten instructions. Get a job, a real job. Get married, get a house, have children, have hobbies. Be a productive member of society and raise the next generation of productive members of society.
So this is just me reading off a script.
We
with
are
the sampler
instructed
next to me,
and
just pressing
moulded
the buttons
into its
when
shapes
I need
and
when I need the
patterns
samples.
by the world around us.
Why, I'm in favor of marriage. In fact, I spend a good deal of my time helping people to get ready for marriage.
And this is untreated as well.
What's that?
These ended up getting run through the radio
Represents the psychological distance
using the
between a
FM
husband
transmitter,
and a
but for
wife
now this
from
is
the
just
time they
straight
are
off the
born
video.
until they die.
My partner and I got married before I came out as non-binary. When I did come out, we both noticed that our families stopped asking us if we were planning on having children. My new identity, a new queerness that could not be hidden or adapted, didn't feature on the marriage development board. It wasn't on the list of instructions, and as a result, we had accidentally become exempt from it. Our mask had cracked.
Why, yes, I think you've made a good start towards getting ready for marriage.
The radio's going to fizz. And then the radio's going to explode, and there's going to be complete silence. All my friends are turning into stars. And I am still here, watching them. I measure the redshift of them moving away from me, and I am still here.
So the line changed slightly
Blue.
at the end.
And then we're going to have some interview tape here. It's going to be somebody talking about how stars are formed. Hopefully that works. If it doesn't, it's going to be interesting. And then we move back into some music.
Can you tell I was stressed? Can you tell I was stressed when I was making...
A star is a fixed point in the sky.
I think this bit changed.
A forever home by human timescales, bending reality
Oh,
around
I know
its
what this
gravity
was.
well.
So this was the backup narration, where I was just like, just in case the guy doesn't say the things I need him to say. So this is like, right, I'm gonna put this here.
A star is a fixed point in the sky. A forever home by human timescales, bending reality around its gravity well. It is the process of the universe. Stars are born, they mature, they die, and in dying, create the ingredients for new stars. The instructions begin anew.
I think we go back to...
And we're going to have another radio quote. It's going to be another voice reading this quote. Then came the most exquisite moment of her whole life.
And then it was just me reading through to the end. So so like it was the first time I'd done a scratch track like this, and I think it's really useful. If you were here for the last radio scrapbook stream where I was making something with this, like it's an interesting way of writing, of making audio pieces where you kind of you make it as you go. Like, I think something that I'm definitely wanting to explore this year, I say this year, I'm going to be working on Camlin until May, and then who knows. But, like, I'm enjoying this new process of, like, recognizing that the way I make things is that I don't put myself out there as a writer, because for me the idea of writing is also bundled up with scoring and sound design, right? So like for me it's all one process. It's just making a thing, like the equivalent is like the difference between being a songwriter or just being a guitarist or a session guitarist, right? Where it's like if you're a songwriter, you're doing all of it, and this idea of writing a song, I think is the same for me when it comes to making audio pieces. And I think this and the last piece I made on stream, about names, that I think that was the kind of first time where I'm sort of like, there's a way of doing this where you're doing the entire thing at once. You're writing, you're scoring, you're doing sound design, you're doing the entire process all at the same time, rather than like, right, we're in the scripting stage. Now the scripting stage is over. Now we go into the recording phase. Now the recording phase is over. Like very much like a sort of 16-bit RPG approach to making stuff. Whereas I wanted to do something a bit more like, I'm enjoying trying to do things in a bit more of a kind of messy, jumbled up way. It feels much more me. But yeah, doing a scratch track was really useful in this case. And then I did a first draft, and then did some other stuff, did the interview with Matthew, recorded Alessa's voiceover stuff, and I know people who do everything, Alex Newell versus a guy who just voice acts. Exactly. Like those are two people who do very skilled work, who are very, very good at what they do, but like they sort of do creativity in different ways. And I think I'm kind of realizing that both are masters. And I think that like I've talked about this when I've done workshops before, where it's like, for me as somebody who works as an audio editor, it's the difference between when you go into a project, you have to make the decision whether this is a project where you're going in either as a technician or as an artist. Like if I'm being asked to edit an interview podcast, right? Like I'm not going into that edit thinking, how can I express my inner truth in the way I cut out all the ums and ahs in this audio tape, Whereas if I'm being asked to sound design or score an audio drama, I don't go in being like, right, okay, what's the quickest, most efficient way to communicate this information? Like those are two separate ways, different ways to approach an edit. And I think the thing that I'm realizing this year, and the thing that I'm kind of learning and expanding on this year is, okay, what's the difference in the actual work? Like I've been treating it like a mindset, but it's like, okay, but there's if it's a different mindset, surely that also implies that it's a different way to approach the work. And that's kind of that's where my brain is when it comes to making stuff. Like I keep saying, oh yeah, I'm experimenting with these new ideas and new ways of making stuff, but I'm too busy. I'm too busy with Camlin. Like Camlin and my current freelance job are taking up an ungodly amount of my time. So it means I have lots of time to think about these sorts of things, but not actually do anything about them. Which is not a bad thing, but it just means that like it just means that when I get back to being able to work on these smaller, sort of more experimental things, I'll have a bit more of a mindset for them. And to be honest, like one of the things I really love about these streams is that it gives me an opportunity when I'm not doing Camlin streams to spend some time with those ideas, with those thoughts and those ideas and those things. Like I bought a whole library a good couple of months ago of like drum loops, and I've not made anything with them yet, but I'm like, one stream I want to spend a bit of time with these drum loops and make something with them, because again, not something I've done before. Okay, as someone, I can write a script, I will learn how to use the software, I will learn how to direct and produce. I really am scared. It is a scary thing, but like that's what I did, like I I came to that being like, I know how to use this software. Didn't know how to write. Didn't know how to direct or produce or anything like that. I was just like, oh, well, I'm gonna do it and see what happens, and just do it that way. And if something doesn't work, then you if it doesn't work, then you try something else. Like not all of the things I've tried with audio dramas have worked. Like the cover series was a lot of fun, but it didn't necessarily. I wouldn't go so far as to say it was a good idea that worked, but I learned a lot about making stuff. Not all of the process of making Anamnesis was a complete success, and I think there are bits of Anamnesis that suffer from the fact that it was made very quickly. But I still learned a lot from the experience, and I took a lot of the experience into Camlin, which is and there's bits of Camlin that didn't work. There's in the first episodes. In the first episode, the scene that's recorded outside, that was a disaster. Like the audio we got from that scene is not good, but we made it work and learned from the experience, and I've learned a lot from Camlin, and yeah. Okay, let's have one final. Let's have a re-listen. Let's listen to it all together now. Listen to it again with the sort of new knowledge from what we've all talked about. I think it's useful, having listened to the scratch track, to listen to it again. I know it's not going to be perfect, but I hope people will love it. I mean, yeah, that's what we all strive for. And I found that people are very forgiving. Excuse me. Okay, here we go. So this is All My Friends Are Turning Into Stars. I'm going to mute my microphone.
Verify the EMS set up the way you want it. Okay. Yeah, the moon is there, boy, in all its splendor. And it's plaster Paris gray to me. Don't look at it. Here we come up. Okay.
A man whose desire is to be something separate from himself, to be a member of Parliament, or a successful grocer, or a prominent solicitor, or a judge, invariably succeeds in being what he wants to be. That is his punishment. Those who want a mask have to wear it.
I'm interested in how galaxies form and evolve across, cosmic time.
When you look up at the sky on a clear night, what do you see? There's the moon and the stars.
So, we know the universe is 13, 14 billion years old.
The moon looks like the biggest thing in the sky, doesn't it? Those tiny-looking stars are larger than the moon, but they are much farther away.
And when stars form, that's how galaxies grow and evolve.
Millions and trillions of millions and trillions of millions and trillions of millions and trillions.
I was having coffee with some old friends. We'd spent the morning bouldering, scurrying up climbing walls and falling down. A lot. We sat with aching arms and legs and backs. Not quite as spry as we used to be. It was one of the first times that I'd gone outside looking like some kind of rough approximation of my new gender, trying to relearn how to wear clothes again. Not that I'd ever really figured it out in the first place. I felt large and awkward, like a teenager again, except 31 and surrounded by other 31-year-olds who seemed to have their lives together. We talked, we caught up, and soon the topic of house prices and mortgages came up, of investments and dog ownership. Worlds that were far away from me, undiscovered, unknown. We are at the age where we talk about these things. We are at the age when we talk about settling down, about finding the forever home. We are at the age where we relive and retell stories, rather than live new ones. We are at the age where we become a fixed point in the sky.
millions and trillions of miles away.
Heterotemporality, or the equally wonderful word chrononormativity, is the idea that there is a correct progression to life, a correct way to be an adult. It's a list of unwritten instructions: get a job, get a real job, get married, get a house, get a car, have children, have hobbies, be a productive member of society, and raise the next generation of productive members of society. We are instructed and moulded into its shapes and patterns by the world around us.
Why, I'm in favor of marriage. In fact, I spend a good deal of my time helping people to get ready for marriage. What's that? I call it a marriage development board. It represents the psychological distance between a husband and a wife from the time they are born until they die.
My partner and I got married before I came out as non-binary. When I did come out, we both noticed that our families stopped asking us if we were planning on having children. My new identity, a new queerness that could not be hidden or adapted, didn't feature on the marriage development board. It wasn't on the list of instructions. There was a new distance now. We had accidentally become exempt from the usual ebb and flow of adulthood. The mask had cracked.
Why, yes, I think you've made a good start towards getting ready for marriage.
All my friends are turning into stars, and I am still here, watching them. I measure the redshift as they drift away from me, and I am still here, blue.
Okay. What is a star? So I think it's actually one of those questions you've asked different astronomers, you'll get different answers. I'm Dr. Matthew Temple. I'm a research fellow at Universidad de Capitales in Chile. The way a star forms is through a process of gravity. So the star has to, start with a gas cloud and then collapse down until the density at the center of the star is such to ignite nuclear fusion reactions. And these often have some, dust and so on in them as well. So you get these beautiful images from things like the Hubble Space Telescope and James Webb Space Telescope. And then as it's collapsing down, you start seeing these small pinpricks of light, which is where you got the protostar forming, often enshrouded by dust. But then as it ignites and starts to radiate out, then it blows that dust away, and you see the star unveiled. You can think of it almost like a life cycle. A star is born, and then it lives, and then it dies in a supernova, and then that actually sends out lots of material from the dying star into the surrounding medium, and then that triggers a new phase of star formation as well. So you end up with this really sort of interesting and complex sort of life cycle within the galaxy and within a star forming region.
Get a job, get a real job, get married, get a house, get a car, have children, have hobbies, be a productive member of society, and raise the next generation of productive members of society.
Millions and trillions of miles away.
Then came the most exquisite moments of her whole life, passing a stone urn with flowers in it. Sally stopped, picked a flower, kissed her on the lips. The whole world might have turned upside down. The others disappeared. There she was, alone with Sally, when old Joseph and Peter faced them. Stargazing, said Peter. It was like running one's face against a granite wall in the darkness. It was shocking. It was horrible. She made old Joseph tell her the names of the stars, which he liked doing very seriously. She stood there. She listened. She heard the names of the stars.
Queer time, queer space, exists in opposition to chrononormativity. It is, as Jack Halberstam writes, an outcome of strange temporalities, imaginative life schedules, and eccentric economic practices, with the potential to open up new life narratives and alternative relations to time and space. It is a failure to follow instructions correctly, by choice or by circumstance, but finding beauty and meaning in the failure. It is Jupiter, not quite a star, but something else, with its own mini solar system of moons orbiting it. It is Neptune, hiding in plain sight. It is Uranus, spinning the wrong way, sideways. It is Pluto, defying and confusing conventional classification. We may not be a fixed point in the sky. We may still be at the mercy of other cosmic forces pulling us in different directions. We do not bend reality around us as the stars do. But we still affect each other's orbits. We still warp time and space in our own ways.
So yeah, that's all my friends are turning into stars. That's the piece I made for Radio 4. I should probably put this up somewhere else online that isn't on Radio 4. I still need to ask about what my rights are in terms of like ownership. I think I retain ownership of it because I was commissioned to make it, but I didn't sign anything in terms of like copyrights or anything. I'll need to check that because there's a few places this could live. But yeah, like the whole bill. I'll, like, might see if I can put it on, stick it up on SoundCloud or put it on the Tin Can Audio Presents feed or something like that. Maybe, I don't know. I'll figure it out. So yeah, like it's a piece I'm really proud of. It's not I don't think it's an idea I'm done with, you know, like I said, like this was a monologue and then it was an audio drama and then I kind of hacked this together for it, and I am still developing the audio drama idea, like turning it into a full series. But that's a long way down the line, just because I'm at it's a good problem to have, but I'm at the stage where all the ideas are getting bigger and bigger. And it just means that if I have an idea, it's going to be years before I get the chance to actually make it, which is, you know, it's a good problem to have, but at the same time, it's somewhat frustrating. It's given me a lot of ideas and inspiration for my own queer ideas, writing, space and time thoughts. Oh, well, if you want similar things, my producer at Shortcuts was the fantastic Axel Cocoutier, who is another non-binary space nerd, and they made a documentary. Let's see if I can find it. Yep. So I'm gonna stick a pod.link link in there. There we go. So this is it's Lights Out. It's available on the BBC Sounds, but it's also available as a podcast. So I think everybody should be able to listen to this. It's kind of like Shortcuts, except that the documentaries are a lot longer. Again, fantastic things on here. But there's an episode called Gatekeeper, and it's Axel Cocoutier talking about their non-binary identity and related and concepts of realities there. And the idea of queerness through Indigenous communities and different sort of views of different ways of seeing, different ways of classifying identities, but then also relating it to space, to the point where I was actually like, I took a lot of inspiration from Gatekeeper. I think it's one of the best pieces of audio that has ever existed, ever been made. Like, if you enjoyed what you've heard tonight, please go listen to Gatekeeper. It's one of the most beautiful things you will ever listen to. But it's to the point where, like, I was quite worried when I found out that Axel was going to be my producer, because I was just like, either we're going to really get on, or Axel's going to be really cross that here I am, another transgender person wanting to make a piece of audio about queerness in space. So yes, please do go listen to Gatekeeper. It is a beautiful piece of audio. I love it very much. It's one of my favorite things in the world. Yeah, all sort of perspectives on queerness is wonderful. It truly is. Okay, I'm going to be calling it there for tonight. So I'll be back on Wednesday. I'll be opening up the project file for episode 3 of Camlin. I'll be going behind. I'll be talking about Lantern Man. I'll be talking about the music. I'm going to do the music and the sound design in one stream this week, just because there's less music in episode 3, so we can kind of get through that relatively quickly. And then talk a lot about the sound design aspects of it, of things as well. So, yeah, I'll be doing that. I'd like to say I'm moving from cis lady to demigirl, she, they. Amazing! Congratulations! Well done. For a very long time, I was a demi boy, so it's a good place to be. It's a good name, I think, right? You sort of feels very sort of classically Greek, right? You know, you just anyway. Getting distracted. Yeah, we'll be back on Wednesday, same time, talking about Calman stuff. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. I'm going to go lie down on my face because it's bedtime for me. And I will. Being a lady all the time is too much work. Yeah, okay, I can sympathize with that. Okay, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.